What's up, Predators? Today I just want to do a quick tip video and just talk about some of the things that, I guess 5 little tips that, really helped me whenever I was starting the carnivore diet. I know that we're going into 2023. There's a lot of people that are, just starting or looking at starting a new diet. And that's why today I wanted to recommend the carnivore diet to you. Obviously, if you've watched one of my other videos, you know that I have been doing the carnivore diet for about 2.5 years now, and it's just greatly benefited my life, and I want to share this with everyone. So without further ado, let's do further. So the first tip I'm going to give you is stopping those sweet cravings. So that's one of the biggest things that I struggled with early on, was fighting these cravings to have something sweet, especially going to the gym a lot and finding myself in the gym. I struggle quite a bit with wanting to have some extra carbohydrates and some extra sugars on board so that I didn't quite feel that fatigue in the gym and that I felt like I could last a lot longer and my muscles were given all the glucose that they needed to continue in the gym and not struggle. So one of the ways that you can control this is by adding more salt and more fat into your diet. So due to some of the suggestions that I got on the last video about the carnivore diet, I tried it and it worked amazingly. So by adding more fat in your diet, you give yourself more of that long burning energy, and basically eventually what happens is you have more gas to go longer in the gym, because that fat is a longer burning energy, whereas carbohydrates, they kind of are either burned really quickly from your body or they're stored as fat if you didn't need it. So with the fat though, it takes a lot longer for your liver to break these things down, and therefore it makes it to where you have a lot longer burning source of calories and energy to keep you going. The other thing that really helped me with this was adding more salt into my diet. So basically salt is, or sodium more specifically, is a essential neurotransmitter to help your muscles function in the right capacity, and also just basically have your brain tell your muscles what to do, okay? So having more salt on board was able to help me with that, and it made it to where, like I say, I felt more productive in the gym, and I just had a little bit better time with that. Also, like I say, whenever you have more fat and salt on board, it kind of outweighs those sweet cravings, to where now your body's gonna start training itself to be like, okay, well, I need more of that salt, right? I need more salt in my diet. And it's gonna be, basically your brain's gonna see that salt and fat as a food source, as an energy source, rather than the carbohydrates and the sugar. So if you're just starting the carnivore diet in 2023, that's my first tip, and that's gonna really help you out. And this also goes for not just the carnivore diet, but it also goes for any kind of ketogenic diet. It's gonna help you with that quite a bit. Tip number 2 that I've got here for you on the carnivore diet is not to be scared about the poops. Yes. So whenever you first go on the carnivore diet, one thing that a lot of people don't really like to talk about, because it's not quite very pleasant, is that you will have a purge moment, as I like to call it. Basically, your guts are now going to be, whatever is left over in your intestines and everything, all the rotten food material, like the vegetables and all the breads and carbohydrates and all that stuff, are going to be purged out of your body. Now that your diet's consisting almost entirely of meat products and animal products, you're going to find that those animal and meat products are way more bioavailable than the vegetables and all that, which means that you're going to be able to digest them a lot better. So basically there's going to be more of that material is going to be digested, and it's going to be absorbed into your bloodstream and used by your body as fuel versus vegetables and other things like that. So what this is going to mean is that basically as you add more meat in there too, there's nothing else being stacked on top of the stuff that's already in there. And eventually what's going to happen is it's all going to just going to want to come out, honestly. Your body's going to purge itself. It's going to say, hey, like all this junk that's in there now, let's get that out and let's make way for something new, because it really likes that nutrition, all those vitamins and all that fat and protein that's coming from all the meat products. There's one misconception that a lot of people think, is that, meat just rots in your gut. And that's honestly just not true at all. I'll be doing a video about that stuff soon here. I'm going to do a video about misconceptions about the carnivore diet. And so whenever you're getting started in the carnivore diet, you're going to hear a lot of people say things that honestly are just patently false. And we're going to kind of debunk some of that stuff. So if you want to see more videos about the carnivore diet, especially how the carnivore diet appeals to hunters and everything and outdoorsmen, one of which I am, as you can see the bow right behind me here. I am a bow hunter and rifle hunter, so and shotgun hunter now. So if you want to check that out, guys, subscribe to the channel, like this video, so we can bring you more of this kind of stuff. tip number 3, and this is something that I struggled with a little bit at first, and that is that you can eat as much meat in one sitting as you possibly can. So there's this kind of common misconception that you need to be eating 7 or 8 small meals a day. And that's really honestly not true. There's a great book that I read a while back, and it's not about the carnivore diet, but it's a great book about keeping your body clean, and the name of the book was literally Clean. And basically this doctor was talking about how no matter what food you're eating, this is a completely diet isolated thing here, but he's talking about no matter what food you're eating, you need to have a period of fasting every day between meals, and ideally it's about 7 to 8 hours or more between meals. And what that's going to do is it allows your body to carry out different phases of digestion. So for one of the phases is obviously ingestion, where you're eating the food. Then it comes into your body and it immediately starts breaking down all your stomach acids, and peristalsis, which is the motion of your bowels to squeeze that through its entire, miles of tract of digestive system there. And once it's going through that, it's mechanically breaking down this food and everything. So that digestion phase is an important phase there. After it goes through a lot of that digestion phase, what it needs to do is it needs to remove wastes from the system. And basically what happens is if you're constantly eating small meals throughout the day, it'll actually interrupt that waste removal part of the digestive system. So what is really important to do is to make sure that you take a break between meals. The carnivore diet, how this specifically relates to that is that the carnivore diet is really great for that because there is always a really good break in between meals. So for instance, if I eat a very high protein breakfast, and I eat a lot higher protein breakfast than a lot of people out there, even some people on the carnivore diet, and typically for breakfast I'll eat 7 or 8 eggs for breakfast, which is quite a bit. I usually like to fry them. Sometimes I'll scramble them and things too, but I like to try to keep them as raw as possible. I have even done medium boiled eggs. Don't like hard boiled eggs, but I like even medium soft boiled eggs. And I'll eat all that, about 6 or 7 eggs before breakfast. That isn't a massive amount of protein. I don't know how much it is, but I'll put that number up here somewhere. Those eggs with the fat and the protein that they give are plenty of energy and plenty of protein to carry me all the way until dinner time, where I'm not even slightly thinking about food. The great thing about eggs too is it's 99% bioavailable and bioabsorbable, meaning that my body is going to absorb almost all of that material and be able to use that for my daily needs, right? So what that's going to lead to is, I'm not going to have any of that bloating. I'm not going to have a lot of excess junk and stuff carried throughout my gut through the day. It's going to be almost completely absorbed into my bloodstream and used by my body. But not only that, but like I say, it's so much protein that I don't even think about food for 12 or 13 hours easily, and it's not a big problem. Usually, a lot of times, honestly, I have to go at dinner time. I'll start to kind of feel a little bit of hunger pangs, but it's really becomes a rewarding thing because you're like, okay, once I feel those hunger pangs, I've waited plenty of time, and now it's time to eat. I'm ready to eat. So that's something to really think about. And it's basically that time that it gives you. It's where you're not hungry all the time. You don't have to eat consistently, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you to continue on throughout the day with plenty of energy and not be tired and not be worn out. Tip number 4 is get used to fasting. So again, in the same thread that I was talking about here, sometimes it can be hard to have snacks on the road while you're moving around. And if say you do get hungry on the road, what do you eat? There's not just meat readily available. There's a lot of times you can't carry it with you in any easy to form way. So there's kind of an issue there sometimes with a lot of carnivores where they'll end up cheating on the diet and going and getting some fast food or something like that. And basically that's going to create issues where they're going to relapse. They're going to fall off the diet completely sometimes because they had that little bit of a cheat meal. I say even myself, having been doing this for about 2 to 3 years now, there are times where I do have a cheat meal. It's usually around the time of the holidays, and I always end up paying the price for that. I have arthritis issues that will start coming. I'll have bloating in my gut. I'll be tired and fatigued, and so I recommend you not do that. So a couple of things that I've done to help me with those cravings and to help me reduce that is, like I said, getting used to fasting is going to be a big deal. And so I've gotten, like I was just talking about, I've gotten to the point where I've rewarded myself and kind of rewired my brain to be rewarded for feeling hunger pangs. Because I feel hunger pangs, I'm like, yes, you know, okay, now it's time to eat. Whereas before I was on the carnivore diet, I would be tired by the time that I got to that point. I would be exhausted by the time I hit that hunger pang point, and I had no energy left. But the fact that I'm on this diet, I have a lot more fat and a lot more energy to burn over a long period of time, so I don't struggle with that like I used to. So once I get used to those hunger pangs, like I said, I see that as kind of a reward system for me being able to wait it out and wait longer. So if you're on the road and you don't have any snacks and everything like that, wait for those hunger pangs. If you constantly, like me, I travel a lot for work, if you constantly find yourself on the road and unable to actually get you know, some kind of snack or something like that on the road, one thing I've started doing is honestly beef jerky. Beef jerky is great, but there's a lot of really cruddy brands out there. They add a lot of sugars and things like that in order to make it work. Another thing I've done recently too, and I've done this kind of honestly for a number of years, is to create my own jerky. It's incredibly simple, and if you want, I can do another video on that. Again, like and subscribe if you like this video. If you want to see that video, comment down below and start the conversation here. That way we can bring more videos about this topic, because I love the carnivore diet. It's exciting to me, and as you can see, I'm very amped up, and I talk very fast about this. So like I say, if you wanted me to slow down, again, comment below and we'll do that for the next video. So but anyways, like I said, I started making my own jerky, and this is really easy to do. Take your favorite cut of meat. But for me, like I said, typically whenever I'm doing jerky, it's going to be beef. You can also do this with other different types of meat, and experimenting with it is a really good thing. I highly encourage it. What I'll do is I'll go to the store and I'll buy a beef roast, or sometimes a butt roast of, you know, pork or something like that. I don't really care about fat on it, because I'm going to be eating this stuff usually much more quickly than what I can before it'll go bad. I'm going to be completely eating it. So a good fatty roast is okay with me, because again, I feel like the fat actually enhances the flavor of the jerky. But if you're going to be keeping it for a long period of time, go ahead and cut as much of the fat off. But I'll get that nice big roast, bring it home, and I'll put it in the freezer. I want to freeze it just a little bit, because it makes it much easier to slice it up. I don't want to freeze it completely solid, because then it gets way too hard to cut, but I want to leave it in there for at least an hour or two to where it kind of solidifies and gets a little bit harder. I'll chop it into chunks, right? Just slices as I know it, and I'll throw it in the dehydrator. Alternatively, you can bake it at the oven for a real low temperature, like 170 degrees for several hours, until basically it forms into like a jerky. And it's an easy way to carry this with you. You can season it, but I'll throw some salt on it and things like that. I think the fat will actually render and kind of make it a little bit sweeter, so you don't need to add any extra sugars or brown sugar or soy sauce or anything like that into it. So just fatty pieces of meat really help add that salt to it, and it's going to give it a really good flavor. Tip number 5. Tip number 5 is about eating on this diet and not breaking the bank. So a lot of people out there think that you have to have all natural grass-fed meat and all this stuff, and it gets real expensive. They're saying, man, this diet is just too expensive to do all the time. And I understand that complaint, but the main important thing here is really that you are eating meat that is just raw meat. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be the highest end chef select, you know, Kroger select, you know, high end brand out there. It just needs to be meat, right? So processed meat, it's kind of a gray area. Like, I think you'd be better off eating a bunch of hot dogs than you would be not eating meat and eating some kind of, you know, processed junk, you know, like carbohydrates or, you know, Little Debbie's, you know, stuff like that, or eating some donuts, right? But if you are eating the meat, I think you're better off than not. Yeah, you can get a little confused. Like I say, if you get a lot of these meats, these rural processed meats will have additives and fillers in it that aren't meat, and I think that's where you should really stay away. But for the most part, like I say, as long as you're eating a good quality meat, it's really not that expensive. Even right now, as meat prices are really honestly way higher than what they usually are, I can go to Walmart and I can get a 1.5 pound ribeye, tomahawk ribeye steak for about 25 bucks. And I've done this several times recently, and that steak will feed me for an entire day. Is it really that expensive? I don't think it is. If you're just making smart choices about what you buy at the grocery store, like they say, if you can eat eggs and you can digest eggs just fine, add eggs to your diet, add more eggs, because eggs are cheap, right? I can buy a dozen or 18 eggs for about $2 to $3 now, depending on where you shop. I usually shop at Walmart because that's the closest grocery store to me. But I buy about 2 dozen eggs, Again, they don't have to be pasture raised, farm raised, all this stuff. A lot of this doesn't make as much difference. All those high-end things don't make as much difference whenever you're just talking about ingesting meat. Now, if you're also having a normal diet and you're eating vegetables and you're eating other carbohydrates and stuff, then it's a little bit more important, I think, because you need to make sure that you get leaner meats, you know, because the mixture of fats and carbohydrates in your diet at the same time is usually what leads to heart issues. A lot of people want to blame meat for giving them heart issues, but I think it's really the combination of the two things. So if you're just having meat and you're just having fat in your diet there, what's gonna happen is it doesn't really matter which tier of meat you get. As long as you're staying on that meat and you're eating carnivore, I think you're gonna be fine, okay? So there's a lot of times where I could eat a good meal for really low prices, and if you're really trying to pinch a few pennies, eggs, pork, and chicken are great things that you can eat, and they're actually very inexpensive. A little bonus tip I'm just gonna give you real quick too is, you know, about variety. A lot of people say, well, I got burned out on the diet because all I could eat was beef and all I could eat is this. Basically with the carnivore diet, there's also other ones out there like the lion diet. The lion diet's where you only eat beef and you know, pork, and you know, only eat certain things, and you only season it with salt, and you only drink water. That's not what I'm talking about. The carnivore diet is much less restrictive than that, but basically the idea is, okay, just eat meat. So what are some meats I can eat? Branch out, okay? You can eat any kind of fish. That's salmon, tuna, halibut, cod, whatever. Eat some fish. Fish is great for you. Got a lot of good fats in it that your body really needs. Beef, again, I can eat any tier of beef. I can eat the grass-fed beef, I can eat the regular beef, I can eat bison. Bison is a great option. I can eat exotic meats as well. Let's see, going to pork. I can eat pork. I can put pork steaks, pork chops, roast, all that kind of stuff. Just make sure you don't season it with anything that's gonna upset your stomach. Chicken, there's lots of different kinds of chicken, turkey, any kind of poultry out there is gonna be great. As a hunter, I go for a lot of exotic meats as well. I've eaten ram. The ram is really good. Goat. The goat was really good. You can also eat lamb. Lamb is a really great option. It has a ton of fat on it. And I actually really like lamb, especially if it's sauteed and cooked the right way. Recently, I put a video link up here. I went hunting ducks, and I've got teal, I've got ducks, I've got 6 different varieties of ducks in my freezer. I think if you really want to branch out, there's a lot of ways that you can branch out on the carnivore diet, and it really allows you a huge variety of foods that you can eat. So don't limit yourself. You can eat a lot of different things. So anyways, if you're not a hunter, guys, and I understand you found my channel through the carnivore diet and all these different videos that I've been putting out now, and more I'm gonna put out here as well. I want to encourage you to just think about hunting. I understand if you're not a big fan of actually taking an animal's life yourself, but I think it's actually a relationship that brings you closer to the meat that you eat, and it makes you want to stick with this diet more, because having been able to harvest the animal and being able to take that life, I think honestly for me it's a sacred thing, and it makes me want to do more to conserve that wildlife, and it brings me a closer relationship with it. And again, it allows me to have a freezer full of meat at all times, because I'm a hunter. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing and supporting the channel. That's how we keep bringing you these videos. And so I've been finding the time to do it lately. I've been traveling a lot for work, trying to hit the gym again, get it back away from the holidays and all the mistakes I made there. And I encourage you to come along with me, guys, as we do some more videos on the carnivore diet. And thank you very much for watching. And as always, Predators, keep defying the odds.